Hey, how you guys doing? So there's this treatment out there for OCD. It's called transcranial magnetic stimulation, and you'll see this a lot on like Google and a lot of different social media adverts. And in this presentation that I'm about to begin, I'm just going to go into like my own personal negative experience about it. So please stay tuned for the presentation, guys. Thank you. So guys, around, I can't remember the actual, month it was. It was somewhere in the winter of 2019. I mean, granted, I guess everyone has their own, your difficulties in life, your mental issues or whatever you want to call it. But I guess what you could say is I have like a little bit of a quirk. I mean, I have like a little bit of OCD. So, there's like a lot of golden standard treatments out there. I mean, there's exposure response prevention therapy, and then there's medication. However, I was recommended for something called TMS. It's called transcranial magnetic stimulation. I was recommended for this treatment. I mean, at the time, it was mentioned to me as, and they kind of get you with these, keywords, buzzwords, or whatever you want to call it, natural, safe, non-invasive, no use of medication. So I'm the kind of guy that's not really into any drugs or surgery, so this really appealed to me at the time. At the time when I was doing research, it was recommended to me by, by some professionals, and then after that, I kind of went into, like that headspace where, I Google things, let me YouTube it, and I'm gonna separate it, I guess, into like 3 different categories, on Google, on how when you Google things and it's like the first page, and there was like a red flag that kind of appeared. It's like very generic looking websites, and obviously, they're gonna have, like a lot of positive things to say about it. I didn't really see much negative things. If there were any negative things that were said about it, they would just say they were just very, minor inconvenience. Let's say such as, twitching of the scalp, or like a minor headache, small scale eye twitching, which at the time I'm like, okay, if this can treat my OCD, if this can kind of take it away and I just got to deal with minor side effects, that's fine. I mean, so Google, it was all positive. YouTube, I'm not going to say whether it was staged or not. I don't know the full details, and even you guys, I mean, you guys can clearly look at it, and we might even put it in the description box later. There was like a bunch of testimonials that I seen on YouTube, and even in that, I mean, it was, everything was positive. I mean, all they had was positive things to say, So at the time, I'm kind of weighing out the decisions. I'm thinking, maybe this might be a good move for me, So I went into Google, I told you how that was. Everything was positive. Very generic looking websites, which was kind of fishy looking back at it, but it is what it is. YouTube, again, very positive. And as a matter of fact, this is probably the first YouTube video that you'll see that's going to have someone talking about a negative experience on TMS. And also Reddit. I mean, the most negative thing I've seen on Reddit was just stuff like it either works or it doesn't do anything at all. And there's also like a lot of advertisements on social media. I didn't want to really involve it in this presentation, due to copyright matters, because America is very sue-friendly. I mean, the moment you name a clinic, you name the manufacturer, you name a person, there's going to be some type of issue. So that's why I decided in this presentation to kind of just like keep everything anonymous. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to mention the manufacturer. I'm not going to mention any clinics. And okay, there might be people out there that might have had a positive experience with this. Okay, that's your opinion. Everyone has their own perspective. I mean, I have my own perspective. You have your own perspective. This is America. I mean, we can express our, we have freedom of opinion in this matter. So, I talk about I call it deceptive marketing because they don't mention any of the permanent side effects that I myself suffered later on. And Yeah, so what I did after that was, after my initial preliminary research, I decided to call a top company. And again, guys, this is all publicly available information on Google. I called a company, a sales lady got back to me, and, again, same thing, same spiel, very positive, this will work out for you, and she gave me numerous different examples of people who did it, and they, they lived a better quality of life afterwards. And, based on all this research, I decided to move forward. There was one more thing I had to do. I had to find out a clinic that was available in my area that would do it, and I found it, and I went there. And again, even with that, the client care coordinator, nothing bad to really say against these guys, but they were polite, whatever. They only know they only know whatever they're going to know. And she was again saying positive, no negative experiences, no nothing like that. And even like a common person on the street, kind of like a lay person, it's like if someone hears the term transcranial magnetic stimulation, you wouldn't really think about you wouldn't really think too much about it. And also, I'm gonna piggyback, back to where I was with the deceptive marketing was not really on Google or YouTube, but more on social media because, social media is quick. It's a very instant gratification. They kind of have these slides and they market it as kind of, like a spa treatment kind of thing. You kind of just come in and you go back to work and, after 36 sessions, you're okay, whatever. After giving all the information, after, giving everything, like I seen, heard, spoke about, I went in for a consultation at a clinic, a so-called, clinic. I'm a very detail-oriented person, so obviously with something of this magnitude, I really did like a lot of research. I don't remember all the questions that I had in verbatim. This was 2 years ago, guys, but it was questions. The main thing for me was, are there any side effects? Are there any long-term side effects? Does this work? Stuff like that. Again, same thing. She said it was safe. They were very adamant that it was a safe procedure. Nothing was going to go wrong. This really helped like a lot of people. They sort of just did a good job of just kind of just putting my mind at ease about this whole thing. So it was a Friday, and I thought about it over the weekend. I was like, with everything I knew at that time, I decided to kind of just like move forward with the treatment. So I'm gonna go into like the actual treatment, and this is sort of what the treatment might look like. Again, no personal things there, but this should give you an idea of how it looks like. Basically, the people that work on you, while you're doing this, they kind of just do this with everyone when they're, when they're going through the consultation. There's this mapping procedure. That's what they call it. They're basically running the machine and they're trying to see if, one of your limbs move. It could be your hands, it could be your feet, they're basically, trying to map it out, whatever that's called, to see like what the right dosage is or what the right treatment is. Moving on to the next point. So then that was a mapping assessment. Now, after this assessment, I didn't really think much of it at the time. I thought, whatever, I guess that's part of the treatment. Let me just keep it moving. This might help me, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So, the next day I did the actual treatment. So first session, so it was around 15 minutes in length, and about midway into the treatment, I started having, there was like a bunch of red flags, that started to pop up in my mind. But, you know, whatever, I was committed. I was thinking, okay, whatever, this is going to take my OCD away, or this will reduce the, severity of my symptoms. So whatever, let's give this a try. So they hook you up to this machine, and it's different for different protocols. But they put a cap on your head, or they use like a device. They might pulsate it on the side of your heads, and I guess I have like a lot of pain tolerance. I mean, it's not super painful. It's more like an annoying, pecking kind of sensation, and then, there's like a lot of facial twitching that goes on. There's like a lot of buzzing in your brain. And I remember, like my left arm was sort of shaking as I did this procedure. I don't remember even exactly what the intervals were, but I believe the technician, she was just saying like, every 1 minute, they'll buzz you for 30 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds. It was something of that caliber. It was something of that nature. So it wasn't painful. It was just like really annoying. And as the treatment kept going, I just kept thinking in my mind that this feels as if though I'm kind of like, I'm going through like a mini electrocution, just something just like didn't feel right. Like the way that I thought about what the procedure was not what it was in actuality. And let's go on to the next slide. Post-transcranial magnetic stimulation treatment. So how did I feel afterwards? So I didn't feel particularly awful. As a matter of fact, when it was advertised to me at that time, the sales lady, and again, if she's not called a sales lady, I don't know what the professional term is. She was saying that you're going to see benefits right after the first treatment. Now, I was kind of like looking out for it. I'm like, okay, do I have less OCD? I don't know, am I making more clear decisions? Do I have more clarity? I was kind of like looking out for that. I was observing my own mind, but there wasn't anything crazy going on, but then there was also kind of like red flags going on in my mind, like what if this really did affect my mind? What if something might happen? I mean, I didn't really, at that time, I didn't really know what to expect. I am a little bit of a insomniac, but I wasn't really able to sleep that night. But there was something very peculiar, like as the day progressed after I had that treatment, there were certain things that were going on in my mind that I just knew that just wasn't there before the treatment. I just didn't want to go back. I skipped the next recommended treatment. And then throughout the week, guys, I mean, very odd things just started happening. And again, I was told, repeatedly, multiple times that this is all in my head, and there's no way that something as safe as TMS can cause this. And, it was kind of like a mentality like it's your problem, not ours, But I knew internally there was something going on. And I'm gonna go into the side effects. Now, depersonalization, guys, it's for those not familiar with this term, I mean, in my own words, I'm just gonna say, it's a feeling, and I still have it to this day, by the way. It's a feeling as if though like your mind and body are both just like disconnected. It's as if though you're seeing like a 3D world. It's as if though everything is fake and nothing looks real. And like the more research I did about it, the more I came to this conclusion that I'm going through depersonalization. And I never had this problem before the treatment. And the depersonalization, it was getting worse and worse as the days just kept going. So you could say that this is like a slow onset type of problem. Second symptom that I could say is I had increased anxiety. Now, granted, the world that we live in, I mean, there's like a lot of things that, that can get you anxious, but this was like an artificial kind of anxiety. I mean, this was like, this was not like a normal anxiety I would usually have. it was very artificial, very pronounced. It's as if though, something clicked, as if though it clicked a certain part of my brain and it just increased the level of anxiety that I have. And over very, very minuscule things. I mean, I started to have anxiety over, very small things. Short-term memory loss. And this is a problem that I never had. I mean, if you ask, my friends, family, whatever, I'm very sharp. I mean, I can remember things quickly. I know what's going on. Now, it's not like, this is kind of hard to explain, but it's like working memory loss. Like, let me give an example. For example, I could be at work and my boss can tell me what to do. Now, they tell me what to do. I don't know what they said, but like when I'm about to do, when I'm about to do the task, I'll forget, as I'm doing it, what they said, where I never had this issue before. D, okay, odd feeling in the head. It made my OCD worse. It didn't make it better. It just worsened up my symptoms. And I'm still kind of dealing with this. And let me think of like other symptoms I might have on the top of my head. Off the top of my head. Just like more apathy. I used to be like a more joyful person. I feel very apathetic about things. As if though, what's the point of things? I don't know, I have like, it's not as terrible, but in certain sports such as basketball, I have like decreased amount of coordination, like my eye-hand coordination, it's not where it used to be. Number 4, so it's very similar to Havana syndrome. Again, you could Google this, traumatic brain injury, concussion. And this was all conclusions I came to after further research. Based off of the symptoms that I was having at the time, I knew that there was, something, that was kind of just like going wrong. There was something like way off. But I just knew within that week after I had the TMS treatment that there was something off. But I just couldn't really attribute it to it at the time. I was in like a lot of denial at the time. Despite all that, despite all the negative side effects, despite everything, there was like a lot of research I was doing at the time, about the side effects I was having, and like the research at that time that I was doing, it didn't lead anywhere. And even if I would put in anything related to TMS side effects, it would just still show the same thing I told you before, the same generic websites on Google, the same testimonials on YouTube, so there was nothing new at the time. The first thing I did was, let me get an MRI, let me see what happens. I got the MRI, everything was still relatively normal, so, I still couldn't, wrap my head around, TMS being the cause. And then, I went to a neurologist, I went to 2 different psychiatrists. They weren't really of much help because they're of the understanding that, the TMS device cannot cause any harm. It's already been researched, it's already been clinically researched, so, it can't really cause any harm. And then I went to like 2 different psychiatrists. One of them didn't even really know what TMS is, then the other one, didn't really, think, just very dismissive. And I went to a few more, I went to a few other professionals, even after them. I went, and all these professionals would just sort of just keep saying the same thing. They were very dismissive about my side effects. They were very dismissive about it. I sort of just came to the conclusion that this is a relatively new injury that just hasn't been acknowledged. Maybe, no one knows anything about it. And even up till now, most, even in this current date and age and time, there are still professionals that still don't really recognize this type of injury. And we will go on to the next slide. After having said all that, I was kind of like in a limbo. I was a little bit defeated. I really didn't know what to do. I mean, I was kind of just like suffering from the side effects, but I figured at that time, like I kind of just have to just deal with it, the best I can, and sort of just like keep moving on in life. So, there was like a period of time, I don't know how much time it was, until one day, I made a discovery. And I made a discovery, and this was something that I was initially afraid to do, but I figure, the truth sort of just sets everyone free. So, randomly one day, and had I known this before, had I found this article before I got the treatment, I would have never got the treatment. But again, hindsight is always 20/20. So, just randomly out of the blue one day on Google, I just typed in TMS damage in my brain, or TMS brain damage. And this article was literally like the first article that popped up. And James Hall, who's done like a really good job of sort of explaining his experience in more details, better than the way that I could talk about it. I mean, if you guys ever have the time to read his article, you should definitely check it out. He goes like very full detail into it. And I learned that, okay, yeah, I mean, this definitely ended my denial phase. I just knew that after reading this article that he was speaking my language. All of the symptoms, they weren't made up in my head, and it was definitely from the TMS. And I also learned that it's basically an injury called, diffuse electrical injury. And, James does a very good job of going more in depth into it, yet better than I can. And currently there's no really real solutions for it at this point. It's not really fully documented, and it's not really well known. But, this article, kind of just gave me like a relief that, okay, now at least I know what the problem is. But anyways, this ended my denial phase, and I contacted him right away, and he led, and it led to a lot more relevant research. And as I, the more and more I read, the more and more I looked into what he sent me, the more I came to that conclusion. And this brings us to our next slide. This is a Facebook group. It's it's composed of victims of TMS. I'm gonna summarize it as like, there's just various different people who kind of just talk about their experiences. Some people come up with their own solutions to the problem. Some people, it's basically like a group where you network with people who went through a similar experience. And, even to this day, I'm just trying to come up with some conclusions. And if there are any viewers out there, whether they had negative or positive experiences, I invite you to kind of check this group out and kind of just check it out for yourself. And if it relates to you, cool. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And yeah, this group sort of just gave me confirmation that I am not alone. Next slide. So now, having said all that, where does someone go from here? So, reversing treatment. In other words, what is the solution to the damage that is caused by something that was supposed to help you out in the first place? That's kind of weird to say, but I would say, as letter A indicates, time plays somewhat of a role. This happened to me in the year 2019. We're in January of 2022. I had a lot of difficulties at first. There's friends and family that seen that how I was when I first got it, up to where I am now. I am progressing in I'm upwardly progressing in the way I think, in the way, in the way everything's going. I see a slow improvement in my symptoms. It's very gradual. It's very slow, and I'm kind of glad I only got like one treatment done. And let's see. Time. Time is a big healer. Not only with TMS, in like a multitude of things, and then B. No recognizable solution at this point yet. So, I'll give you guys an analogy. Now, let's say a football player has an ACL tear. They have the tear. Then the next thing that they would have to do is they would probably just have to go in for surgery. They might have to take pain medications. They might have to go on a brace. And then after they're on that brace, then they have to go into physical therapy, and then they're good to go. But with this, this is such a thing that there is no recognizable solution at this point. And then if there is a third party that views this, I don't know where this video, may go, but I invite any scientists or anyone that has any interest in this. Electrical diffuse injury. You can comment in the video, and again, I'm not going to say the same thing over again. It's a new injury, and it's just not in the current medical literature. There's nothing written out there, which causes me, like a lot of frustration, which causes, like a lot of different people frustration, and so, knowing all this, what can be done in the future? Well, in my humble opinion, I'm just like a normal guy, whatever, I think there should, I definitely think that there should be some kind of informed patient consent where, how someone goes through, like an elbow surgery or knee surgery, there should be, some kind of clause before that person goes through it, stating all of the side effects, not just stuff that you see on, generic websites. There should be full, transparent warning of all the side effects. There's like a lot, there's like a lot of long-term side effects that, still remain unknown. I don't know, although I'm feeling better, but I really don't know what to do about this, and I may or may not be the first person that's coming out with this. This might be the first video of this caliber, but more public awareness has to be known that there are long-term side effects, maybe even permanent side effects with this device. And, and I'm gonna just conclude this slide. This is for me personally. It was a waste of time. It was, obviously it was a waste of money, and the potential long-term consequences really outweighed any, any positives that this machine could have gave me. And, yeah, there you have it with this slide. I'm gonna keep it moving. So yeah, guys, here we are in like our final slide. Obviously, yeah, this presentation could not have been done without all of the information that I collected. This was the first article that I read, and that gave me the conclusion that TMS caused my issues. It was written by James Halls, of course. Second one, of course, is Victims of TMS Action Group Facebook. It's basically composed of either victims of the TMS or people who are looking into it, and I encourage you to kind of check it out. And then this is like another article that James published. He actually kind of gets into like more of like what could be done about it now, and more of the science about the TMS injury and whatnot. And then number 4 is TMS side effects It's basically a website that James created. I mean, it's a very comprehensive website. It, I can't really describe it all in full detail all at once, but, this just tells, like a lot of the stories people have, of like the different side effects, stuff like that. Number 5 is, it's a UK website or a UK article, and this actually gives like a full spectrum of like all of the negative side effects one can experience going through TMS. And having said that, obviously I'm gonna give my disclaimer. Obviously I'm putting myself out there. I know that. And there's going to be like a lot of people that are going to have, your differing opinions about what I have to say. But, this is simply like my own story. This is like my own personal experience. Individual results may vary. I mean, someone can do this treatment. They might not, they might not have any side effects. Someone can get like one treatment done and they can end up even worse than me. So again, I mean, this is just a disclaimer. I didn't want to involve like any personal names, personal companies, personal clinics, and and I believe I gave you guys a good amount of information about the topic of TMS-induced damage. I hope this is enough information for you guys to make your own decision. Whether you do it or not, I mean, that's your own, prerogative. I believe, I think that should be it. I mean, I think this should be enough information for you guys to make an informed decision. Whether you do this treatment or not, I mean, that's completely up to you. And that's it. Thank you. I would also like to shout out To Be Entertained for giving me a platform for talking about my experience, and I would also like to give a huge thanks to James. He really encouraged me to kind of come out with this video, as well as different people, to kind of just like share my experience. And I'll leave it as like one sentence, I'll just say, one more thing, again, this is like my own experience, and I hope this gives you enough information about another side of TMS that about the different stories that you're not going to see in mainstream media. And thank you.